welcome to another episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Therapy Podcast with Chris Mize. I am Coach Chris Mize. I am joined today with Coach Jonathan Andrews and Coach Chris Bowen, who runs our board and keeps the world flowing as we do. It makes the world go around. If you're not tuning in to Coach Chris's own personal podcast, the Furlough Podcast, please look at that. He's got some great ones on the books, I'm telling you, and good stuff coming around the corner for him. It's just, we appreciate any and all support that you guys give us. And like I said, he's got some good stuff. If you haven't listened to any of those, please do that. Well, today's topic was kind of brought to me a couple of weeks ago, and it's visualization in jiu-jitsu and training. How does visualization, how is it used in your training? And we just wanted to maybe give some suggestions on things, and if it's a real deal, is it something that's really worth your time trying to do? Truly, visualization is a proven method of improving performance. I mean, professional athletes use it every day. It's kind of a part of the meditation pyramid. If you're not meditating, you can still visualize if you're not a meditation kind of person. We talked about in one of our previous podcasts a jiu-jitsu guy from up in Canada, and he was I saw an interview with him, and he was discussing right after he got in his purple belt, his shift changed, and he was off the mats for 2 to 3 months, and so he couldn't even train at all because he was working some weird shift. And so he came back and he was worried about just getting his brains beat in class because he had been gone. But all he had done, because he was working like a 12-hour night shift thing, was think about jiu-jitsu when he had free moments. And so he comes back and gets on the mat, and he was rolling with a more of a seasoned purple. And after they got done rolling, the purple belt said, "Dude, I think you're better than you were when you left." I was like, "Wow, how does that happen?" Not that we don't all have good days and bad days. Like I say, sometimes you're the hammer and sometimes you're the nail. But the fact that his performance really had not dropped substantially, I think that's the big thing. He had maintained a level, and he had done it by thinking about jiu-jitsu. And I think the more jiu-jitsu you do, the better at jiu-jitsu you get, not just because of the drilling and everything else, but your ability to recognize and apply all of your previous experiences to that. So, Coach Jonathan, what do you kind of, how do you view the visualization thing? Do you think it's something that you use on your regular basis training?
I use it a lot during demonstration. Like as the coaches are demonstrating the move, I'll visualize what they're doing throughout the move. Mm-hmm. But as I'm away, I'll also be visualizing moves that I know and seeing how I can improve them in my own mind. That way, whenever I come back, I can see how I am actually improving and if it actually works in that way, or if it's just something that came to my mind and needs to leave.
Well, I think too, jiu-jitsu has so many similar components. Something is like something else. Yeah. Shrimping, elbow escape, mount escape. Yeah, everything.
Use that in guard. You use that in back control. You use it everywhere.
Everywhere. It's like threading the needle. A sit out. So many things are just reproduced in so many different areas, and it's either upside down, sideways, or something that's a version of that. So that's just an example of something that is there, and so we build that. It's like very similarly, like I'm sitting in this room right now. I've been in here several times, over the last year. I don't have eyes in the back of my head, but I have a picture painted behind me that I can visualize in my brain. I know it's there. It's like a 360 degree, back in the old days, Coach Jonathan doesn't remember this, but this is back in the old Black Belt magazine days. The Gracies had a 360 degree CD-ROM. Do you remember that, Coach?
I don't remember that.
Dude, they had a
Oh my goodness.
They had a CD-ROM thing that it had Horian and Hoyce doing it, and it showed it from every angle. And I remember, I know, right? And it was like I don't remember when that was, but it was early on. It was in a video in a predominantly a VHS. I think prior to DVD, type time. In beta, everything was beta. made on VHS. It was something kind of unique for a computer, and so I think when we think visualization, sometimes, like Coach Jonathan was saying, he looks at it when people are teaching a technique in class. He can see the other side of it. He paints a picture, that 360-degree image. And so I think people do that every day. That keeps our proprioception of everything around us. So it's like, I'm not going to run into the wall behind me or different things. So we use that. We just need to use it for our jiu-jitsu training. But I thought maybe you would remember that. But
I don't remember that.
Dude, that's old school. But I mean, it was. So I think in my brain, when I think visualization, I think of that 360-degree thing. But
That's kind of impressive. They pulled that off a long time ago, considering the technology and whatnot.
I know, right? I know. It makes me want. I'll try to look that up later on. I think too, when, like we were discussing, when you're doing a technique and stuff like that, and you're working on, or you're viewing something, we all apply our previous experience to it. So I call this like a black belt mindset. People say, "Man, you got good," and it's like, okay, well, maybe my ability. I think as a black belt, I think you just become a lot better student. I think as you do it, I think that's one of the things about after you get your black belt, your ability to interpret and be able to visualize moves and why they're working and stuff becomes a lot easier.
Well, let me try and throw a little thing in there without going down a rabbit hole. Do you think that once you've reached a level, a black belt level, you've gotten your black belt, do you think the pressure, even if it's subconscious, the pressure is off now? We chase that color, that rank, so much. Oh, I want to be a great blue belt. I want to be a great purple belt. I want to be a great brown. I think when, for some people, maybe for you, when you've legitimized yourself with your black belt and continue to train, now you're just training. You're not thinking about, promotions. You're not thinking about how good you are. You've reached a level. And so now you're almost you're truly free-minded and you get better because that's something off your shoulders.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to say that's not on the money but when you think about it, that's the way we should always be. And I wish I could have been that way. But you know what?
We're human.
We are human, and it's hard to we get caught up in stuff. But Master Sauer was talking about this when and yourself, when you actually it's purple. Whenever you're purple, brown, and black, you got a price on your head every time you get on the mat. I mean, that's just the right it is. I mean, especially
absolutely.
if you go and visit somewhere strange,
I've had a price on my head a lot here lately. I think a few people's come like,
I'm coming for you.
I'm coming for you.
Right. So, it's not that. I mean, it just depends. I mean, like Jonathan, which he's, he'll be getting his purple, this year, but he teaches, and in that class, he's the top of the food chain when he's teaching that class. So, and it's not just sometimes, he works with some adult classes too. And so he's the one that everybody's trying to get when you're the one, you're that measuring stick. And he does a great job at doing that. And that's because he's got an old school mentality. He can deal with it. He's got good fundamentals, and, he can deal with most situations, unless somebody's just nuts, which happens sometimes. But yeah, yeah, it doesn't get any. The price doesn't come off your head. Master Sauer was actually talking about it yesterday. I got to train with him over in Georgia at Orhay School, and he was just saying, when you get that, he said you got to get good technical, guys, because when you get to be 40s and 50 years old and you got that brown belt and that black belt around your waist, he said you got to be technically good. You can't depend on just throwing more muscle on the move and making it work, or ferocity to do it. You've got to be able to make the jiu-jitsu work for you. It's not just about you can do a 6-foot box jump anymore, or can power cling 285. It's about how do you do your jiu-jitsu. So I think, visualization is definitely a component that everybody needs to be working on. And I'm sure there's some great books on that. But, that goes back to our breathing and thinking and everything like that. But I use it all the time. I'll do it when I'm figuring out what are we going to talk about in class a lot of times. And when if somebody says, "Hey, coach, I have a question. When this, and this happens, what do you need to do about it?" And rather than try to just tell somebody,
Hit them with a sledgehammer.
right, you say, "Hey, well, show me."
Sure.
Say, show me what you're talking about, so that I can better understand it. And even if somebody has something, you are visualizing the possibility of that as they're showing you, and that allows you to come up with the answer because our pattern, it flips the Rolodex of the mind.
Sure.
To
Well, I think that it also helps with communication because somebody may say something and the verbiage might be a little different than what you're normally used to, and you're like, okay, show me what you got going on so I can really see and dissect what your problem is because people just use different verbiage. People use different words, and
yes, like calling a whizzer a wizard.
who did
Just no, it's whizzer. But I mean,
That's
it's all
pretty
right.
good.
Sorry, I didn't want to correct you the first 3 years. So anyway,
Oh, damn wizard.
those damn wizards.
Yeah, wizards.
That's right. Watch out for the wizard.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So
Yeah.
my
We're not
dad.
Harry Potter.
What now?
We're not Harry Potter. We
No,
know
that's
the
right.
ones.
Well, my dad, when you would get the Alka-Seltzer, and you put the Alka-Seltzer in the water and it would fizz and then you would drink it. My dad would always call the little bit of like nastiness that was left in the bottom, he would call that the lizard.
The lizard.
It makes no sense whatsoever, but we would always say, be sure and drink the lizard.
That's right.
It was always nasty, that last little bit of just like powder at the bottom. It's like doing a BC powder
Yeah.
or something. But anyway, I'm sorry, I just threw that in. I don't know what I'm thinking about. I beg your forgiveness.
That's it.
But anyway, yeah, I think we all agree. Coach Chris, how do you use using visualization? I know you do, but I mean,
I always think of it, when I use visualization, I use it more of if I know I'm going to be going with somebody specific, I think about, okay, I know that person likes to do
you know their pattern.
Yeah, I know their pattern. I kind of know, which we can go into a whole nother thing. It's one of the 5 rules of jiu-jitsu is one of them is don't be predictable, and so, and I think we're all guilty of it. And I try to break that all the time, but that'll go down a rabbit hole. But I see, I know how Jonathan moves. I know how you move. I know how this person or that person moves. So almost before I go to roll with somebody, for example, I have that little bitty movie clip in my brain of okay, I'm going to do this, and obviously after it gets going, you go with what's given to you, and reactions. But like I know how I think I wanted my plan. You know what I'm saying? Now they can shut it down. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's going to work just like a movie, but that's my visualization. I'm like, okay, this is the way I want to start this.
Right.
I want to go this to this to this, and see if I get there. And if I get there, then I'm usually going, oh yeah, and then get it real excited. Sometimes it doesn't work, then I'm crapping, and having to change my mind. But that's some of my visualization. That's what I do.
Well, it's interesting that you do that in rolling, or you prep yourself mentally for the roll, like playing the tape forward and backward, and so you set up strategy. You visualize the previous opportunities you've had training with people, and then you alter flip the script, if you will, of what you're going to do with it. That's a very good example. That's a very good example of it. I think a lot of times when I watch moves now, like I said, kind of like what Jonathan was saying, when I see other people do stuff, I visualize stuff, and I think one thing when I watch people, because now the body mechanics of stuff is so important to me, I can I figure stuff out. Like something seems impossible. I mean, you watch somebody do something that seems impossible, and you'll have that BS meter go off in your head too. You'll watch somebody do a YouTube. Not even an instructional, but a move, and you'll go like, that'll never work in real life.
I broke my meter stick a long time ago. I think pegged so many times. I'm just like, I do not. that goes into a whole nother world of I just don't. I have a hard time, almost to my detriment sometimes. Is you got to show me before I'll
Oh yeah, that's true. That's
bite
true.
off on it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and what you should be able to.
Yeah.
That's what made our art. People say sport. I get tired of that. Sorry, sport, especially newbies. You know, it's like they don't understand it. I mean, it's like I get it. There is a sport, but it's an art that developed into a sport. To me, it's art first, and then sport. You know, art, martial art. Jiu-jitsu was created for war. You know, it wasn't created. You know, but anyway, you end up, you know, you just have to adjust. Anyway, I'm sorry, I won't go down that road. But anyway, but yeah.
But what do you do? Do you teach? Do you discuss that in your classes? You know, and if you don't, is it something that you should maybe add to your classes? Is when you're teaching someone new, or you know the lower rank belts that don't have a lot of experience in the art, and say, okay, you know, I'm going to teach you these techniques, but I want you to visualize how somebody's going to react or how you are going to move in your head. So we'll go over the technique, but every time right before you do the technique, visualize how you're going to manipulate your body or their body, depending on what you're doing, before you do it. So don't just jump through the technique. You're just drilling. Visualize what makes sense. Visualize getting up on a hip. Visualize, you know, hooking the inside of that thigh with the instep of your foot, which I do a lot. And and so, you know, visual, and make people. And I think if you use that word as a positive buzzword, I think that will make people think more.
Right.
In what they're doing.
Well, we talk about that all the time. We'll talk about this is why we do things. You know, so hopefully they'll, you know, you can take something and apply it. You know, especially with the self-defense, you want to do that. But you know, that's one of the things I think a lot of people. I think drilling provides area for where it teaches visualization. When you drill something, you get it into your hard drive a little bit, and then your brain reproduces and causes that 360-degree awareness. I will say this: mechanically, the body moves in a certain way, and I think at the point that you kind of get to that, you know, higher level of training, once you've been training for over 10 years, whatever, something longer, you know, but it just kind of clicked for me a little bit, like probably 8 years ago, you know. I could watch somebody do something and my brain starts figuring stuff out. When I see something that is not normal, Master Sauer's is good about this. He'll do something and it's a detail, and he may not even teach this detail of it. I've got several examples of that where his foot goes, and it's like, that's interesting. And I see him reproduce that, and then it makes sense to me why he did it that way. And I'll ask him about it. He's like, I asked him one time, I said, so this is why you turn the foot this way? And he just patted me on the back and just nodded his head yes.
Well, you don't want to give away all your juice, yeah.
Right. So he just patted me on the back and just gave me the nod and a big smile, like,
yeah.
And he's like, and I still have never heard him teach this one thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, gave me the smile, and it's like, yeah, you know. So anyway, I mean, we apply that visualization process. There's so much deconstruction, and there's so many different ways. It's more than just laying in bed, waiting to go to sleep at night, thinking, Americana, you know, like that. So, but anyway, that was a pretty good conversation. I like it. Do you think of anything, Coach Jonathan, that? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, brother.
He's like, what?
It could be worse. Michael could be here.
That's right.
Anyway,
That's right.
I'm sorry. That's a little salute. Coach Michael's out of town this weekend, so. But anyway, well, guys, thanks for listening. Guys, thank you for coming in. And again, please subscribe to us. We're working on getting our stuff out on other formats to make it a little bit easier for you. if you would, recommend us to a friend that trains or one that just likes to hear about stuff and maybe learn a little bit about, our jiu-jitsu culture stuff. I mean, people like to learn things. It's pretty fascinating, especially if you're not whether you're hardcore or not. But if you definitely started jiu-jitsu, I think it's a good format to think of it. It probably puts you ahead of the game a little bit.
I.e. Amber, if you're paying attention.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's that. Well, hey, we got to get your lovely better half on here too now that she's Coach Chris's wife she's dabbled in jiu-jitsu in the past a
She
little
has.
bit. And she's a scrapper too. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Scrapper's being nice.
Yeah. But anyway, so she's really kicking her jiu-jitsu in a little bit. So we're gonna let her train a little bit and let her come in and kind of give us her perspective. It's gonna be awesome. I
That
think.
would be good because especially if you can get her in under a 6-month time window of her true training to really, man, that would be and she's a talker too, so she'd answer good questions.
I can visualize it now.
There you go.
All right, guys. Well, until next time, again, be safe out there, and we'll see you at the next Jiu-Jitsu Therapy podcast.